Welcome back, family. This is your boy ED. For all you smart and intelligent folks out there, listen, that just simply means Ed. Today's topic is entitled How to Describe Project Management on a Resume. Again, how to describe project management on a resume. Now, I know what you're thinking, like, how, I mean, that should be very simple just to put, hey, I did project management work, or hey, I am a project manager. Listen, family, I've had an opportunity to look at so many different uh, projects, or I shouldn't say I said projects, so many different resumes that has, and you'll be surprised. And I'll ask the person, the candidate in the interview, and I'll say, and because we'll get to talking, and I'll just ask, some probing questions, and then they'll tell me about a project they run, and I say, well, why is that not on your resume? I say, oh well, I didn't even. I didn't even think about putting that on there as far as a project. And I was like, well, yeah, it answers a temporary endeavor. It answers a start and end date. It answers something that's unique. So, when I always try to make sure that anytime I'm coaching or mentoring a project manager, beginner or intermediate or advanced, that they make sure that they outline how to describe what they do, what they've done as a project manager, and what they're doing within project management. You know what, family? I'm so passionate about that. I'm also working on some content to help. Well, not actually. Well, content, and on top of that, being able to provide services to support you. So stay on the lookout for that. If that's something you would be interested in, leave a comment and say, hey, put I'm interested in the resume writing services that we have here. And what that does is basically will just help you with if you're changing careers or if you're already a project manager, and just making sure you outline these things so when it gets to the prospective employer that they'll know, like, oh yeah, we definitely need to get in front of this candidate because this candidate is someone that is doing what we need as a project manager. So I know you didn't just come here there just for that, but you want to understand, how do you do this? ED, tell me, how do I describe what I've done as a project manager on my resume? I'm glad you asked, and I'm here to deliver. Here's 3 points. I try to keep it as simple, as straight, so easy a baby can pick it up, and all I got to do is do the dishes if I decide to. But this time you got the dishes. So one of the first things I always recommend is when you are out as you're putting your resume together, to make sure you outline the methodologies and frameworks that you've worked in. So, for example, here's a framework that I've worked in, which is Scrum. I'm also a CSM, which means a certified Scrum Master, and being able to talk about some of the fundamental as well as just your everyday practices of what a scrum master does. Scrum master makes sure that the team is self-organizing. They hold daily scrums. We make sure that we work with the product, the product owner to as they're refining the backlog. So there's so many pieces there that I could go on and on, which maybe I will. I'll make a video dedicated straight to Scrum so you can get some more context around that. But the point I'm trying to drive home, family, is talk about these fundamentals. I mean, talk about these methodologies and frameworks you worked in. I've worked in waterfall, where waterfall is more of a long tail approach. What do I mean by that? Is meaning that you got step A, and then you go from step A to step B, and that's why they call it a waterfall, because you're going down. Eventually, you will close out the project. Another framework is, I'll just stay on those two. I don't want to give you too many frameworks and methodologies, but what waterfall and Scrum being a framework, waterfall being a methodology that you can leverage when you and put that on your resume if you've done it. Now, family, we're all about integrity here. So if you've never been a Scrum Master, or if you've never used some of the fundamental principles within being a scrum master in your everyday as a project manager, because you also can blend the two, running more like an agile project manager type deal. So make sure, though, family, you articulate that, because employers are definitely looking for that. If you're versatile, oh my God, I mean, they can use it in so many different ways. You have to understand this next skill. This next skill is so important, which is time management. Being able to have effective time management skills. you will run circles, and I'm not trying to exaggerate this. You will run circles around your peers. You will, I mean, even if you translate that into your personal life, you will run circles around people, because when you have time management in place, you have a understanding. Hey, we have 30 minutes for this call. I'm gonna try to get the most. I'm gonna try to squeeze the most out of it that I can with this call. After we get over the pleasantries, hey, how's everyone doing? Now let's get to our agenda, and let's have and let's first, before we get to the agenda, let's set the stage. And setting the stage is, why are we even here today? I've seen leaders show up at meetings, and they're asked, well, why am I even here? And they have the right to ask that question, because the PM didn't set the meeting up properly to put in their purpose, to put in there what the actual meeting or the agenda is going to be about. But family, because you like me and because I like you, I'm gonna make sure I set you up for success. So we will, in future videos, talk about how to properly run a meeting from the standpoint of sending out the agenda, putting a purpose together, and everything like that. So again, what I recommend is that you make sure that you articulate on your resume how you've leveraged time management. You know, I'm going to give you an example, because I wouldn't just leave you hanging like that. So again, an example would be just to talk about, if it was me, I would talk about meetings. Like I led a meeting. I've cut a meeting from an hour to 30 minutes, and and so that way I can give the stakeholders time to go back and work on their projects. I made sure that I had the agenda in there. So just all of the things that'll make it so when someone shows up, it's sort of like when somebody says, hey, I'm coming over, let's say Thanksgiving or whatever, to celebrate with you. What should I bring? You say, only thing I need you to bring is you. And that's what you have to be able to do, is be able to create an environment for stakeholders where you say, the only thing I need you to bring is you. Because when you bring you to the meeting and tell me what you need and what you've completed based on our schedule, based on our work breakdown structure, that you've said, hey, these are the things I'm going to do, I can hold you accountable. And the faster we can find out where you're at and where you're going, will help the team collectively understand, is this going to be some type of risk or issues? But the point I'm trying to make, again, that time management is such a key. If it was me, and I'm only saying this because I'm not telling you something that I think or something that I heard, I'm telling you something that I know. I am actually studying time management as we speak right now. So I'm taking some Dan Kennedy courses. He has a course called Renegade Millionaire, which he has a point in there where he's dedicated talking about time management. Because family, if you work on site, I remember, so currently I work remote for the project management that I'm doing, but when I was on site, I would have people come up to my cube, and again, if you haven't learned by now, family, I'm very talkative, I'm very outgoing, I have that personality. Sometimes I try to hide it, but I can't, because people pull it out of me. People give me that energy to keep going and moving. But what happened is people were coming up to my desk, and then one day my manager pulled me to the side and said, hey, Edward, I know this is not your fault. I know this is something that you didn't create, but it's kind of creating a distraction with these people coming up to your desk. And I was like, hey, I'm with you, because it's taken away from what I need to do. And he was like, do you want me to handle it, or do you want to handle it? And I said, I'll handle it. And I did. I talked to some of the people that were coming up, hey, you know what? Let's connect in the break room, or let's connect in a different, let's connect, take on a walk or something like that. But as far as you coming up to my cube or my office, currently it's creating some type of backlash from leadership and things of that nature. So what we're going to do, just to solve that problem, is make sure that we use the time effectively, because the perception of what it looks like is all I'm doing is, as Dame Dash would say, being a chatty patty. But it really what I was doing, I was networking and seeing how I could use each one of these stakeholders in future projects or whatnot. But the perception is that it looks like that all I'm doing is talking. So one of the things that I learned, which is a great time management technique, is having that ability to know when you need to take control back of your time and leverage it properly. The last and final tip that I'm going to leave you with is effective communication. You know I'm going to harp on effective communication, but I won't keep you too long. Reason why I think being effective at your communication is being able to take what has been articulated, whether in an email or whether in a document, and being able to transcribe that out to your team in a way that not only can they understand it where they don't get lost, but yet when you need to communicate up to leadership, because the further that you communicate up, the less of the details that you put in there and more of the structure of the email correspondent changes. So what I want you to understand, family, is when you are actually working on, because working on your communication is a daily thing. It's not something that you can do once or take a class and like, oh, I got it. No, it's a daily thing. So I challenge you to be able to articulate in your resume how you effectively communicate it. What I would do is, and this is, I'll even throw this in as a bonus, I would use the communication and problem solving as a tag team. What do you mean, ED? Well, what I mean by that is showing the way how you use communication through effectively problem solving whatever the particular conflict, issue, risk, or whatever that was, and how you effectively communicate out what the problem was, how you were going to solve it, what was the deadline, and then what was the outcome, not the result, the outcome. And we're going to talk about that another time. So family, hope you enjoyed today's video. I am your boy ED. For all you smart and intelligent folks out there, that just simply means Ed. And I'm out.